Okay, welcome to part two of my e1700 drone builder video. And my original plan for this series actually was to do a step by step comprehensive build of the e1700. I wanted to go over each part and just kind of go into detail and sort of a how to sort of do tutorial on how to build this quad. And I'll just be honest, the build difficulty level was so high and it took such a long time to build that I basically was like, well, let's just say I ran into some difficulties. Um, I do want to point out, however, that I did get the quad built. There was a few hiccups along the way, however. The first problem was the power switch was not in the quad. So that created a pretty big problem right away. Like, I shouldn't say in the quad. I said in the quad, didn't I? No, what I meant to say was the power switch for the transmitter wasn't packed in the box. Instead of a power switch button, I got two speed controller buttons. I made it work though, because really it's not that big of a deal. All you got to do, if you don't have that button, I just took a pin. You can, like the standard Sky Viper screwdriver, that'll work too. And I just use that as the power to hit the power on it. It's not really a big problem. It's just a little bit disappointing. Um, but so if this is really difficult, which it is it worth getting? Well, I think it is because regardless of what your goal or intent is, or if you just give up on trying to build it, you've still got a nice parts package. Because let's just say you go on Amazon and you buy this thing for $18. I think it originally retailed for over $40. Um, but for $18, here's one way of looking at it. You get, for one, four 7 millimeter motors. You get 650 milliamp hour battery. You get some wiring connectors. You get two sets of props. You get some decals. I mean, and if this sounds like I'm like I'm kind of whitewashing it, maybe I am. But the bottom line is for $18 you actually get a good deal as far as like parts that are transferable to other quadcopters that you might be able to use. I mean, you could. I think the controller difficulty level is, it's hard, but I got it done. But I would just say that for the most part, I think for most people, the amount of effort and kind of frustration, I shouldn't say kind of frustrating. It's really frustrating. I mean, it is what it is. I want to be honest about this. It was just really frustrating to build the quad itself, especially. The transmitter was hard enough, but the quadcopter itself, I mean, man, that thing is hard to build. And I was actually hoping when I bought this um, package that maybe Sky Viper had changed a few of the parts and simplified the build a little bit, but that wasn't the case. They they didn't make any changes at all. They just sent you the parts and a screwdriver, and it's up to you to build it. And the instructions are detailed. It's not like the instructions aren't clear. It's just mechanically getting these parts to fit together. There's a lot of snapping together parts, and it's so hard. I mean, this is my bottom line recommendation. If you want to get a cheap quad, if you want to get a S1750 for less than what you normally pay for it, don't. The S1750 is retailing on Amazon for around what, $42, $44, something around there. Just spend the extra $20, trust me, because this thing is so hard to build. It is a learning experience. You'll learn a little bit about it depending on how new you are to quads. like one of the first things I did was make sure that the transmitter and flight controller would connect because I wasn't sure if that was going to work or not. And to me, making sure that you can bind up and fly is like super important right away. You just want to make sure that's going to work. So I did. I got the motors and flight controller hooked up, and then I powered on the transmitter, and it bound up right away. So, like, as far as all the parts go, it's all functional. Apart from missing that power button, everything was functional. It took a little bit of know-how on my part, and just understanding the basic mechanics of quadcopters, but I was able to do it. It wasn't too much of a trouble. So if I was going to just recommend it as a drone that you're gonna snap together and fly right away on the cheap, no, it's not. I would recommend it as a parts drone because it does have a lot of parts, and you can take this flight controller and the motors, and if you wanted to, you could transfer it to a hobby style little frame, something similar to what Ishin does all the time. Is they basically take the same parts that you get on this quad and they stick it on a typical race quad type frame. They've made tons of quads that way. The QX95, QX90, QX105. I mean, they've got a bunch of them. Of course, theirs have acro, and some of them have an OSD and stuff. So yeah, they do build a nicer end product. But yeah, like I said, I just want to be honest, completely and 100% honest. And so I guess now the question is will this quad fly? Well, let's see how it finally turned out. And here it is in completed form. I kind of got lazy towards the end. I kind of hit my limit, and I didn't completely attach the bottoms of the arms. So I just used a rubber band to hold basically the body together. And a lot of times when you're test flying some of these types of quads, that sometimes that's all you need just to make sure that it runs. And there you can see the power buttons missing. Yeah, very unfortunate, but you know, we'll make it work. Okay, time to bind and fly. See how she does. You never know how these quads are gonna do because they have to be the gyro's got to be stabilized and be able to find the correct angles because it's got the self stabilization. That's always a tricky part when you're flying a stabilized quad. So we're gonna just see how this does here. Use my power button here. Let's see what she does. And we have liftoff. Look at it. It's not like it's not pretty. It's not a build I would like take out and really fly really hard because it might fall apart. But look at it. It's performing like it should. I've got it at I think at rate 1 here. The stunt button works. I'm a little surprised by that, but yes, it works. So here it is. This is proof. This quad, this build, this package, it can be done. It can be done if you're doubting it, but it's not easy. So I just want to say in conclusion that I'm glad I got it because I have an S1750, and you never know, I might someday just make do a little transplant, a little conversion, and move it over to maybe a different frame because I really like the Sky Viper flight controller settings in there. They're very crisp, very tight. The controls feel natural. It's very responsive. It's just a good flight controller. The transmitter has good range. It doesn't have acro. I'm going to keep talking about acro until Sky Viper fixes this situation. But overall, I would say, it worked. I got it done. Maybe it was a bit harder than I would have liked it to be, but it's there. At the worst, I would say for $18, like I said before, you get a pretty good parts drone. So that's all I've got. I would definitely say I've had my fill of this little drone project. And if you made it this far, thanks for watching. I love talking about drones. I love this hobby. And hopefully I'll have more videos coming soon about some of my other drones and projects I've got going. That's all I've got. Thanks for watching.